Hi, I'm Max Voronkov. As you can guess from my picture, I work for CSIRO Astronomy and Space Science, and I will try to look into various meetings I attended as part of my science career and see how I developed my collaboration networks. First, a few words about my area. I work largely as a software developer and uh, essentially, I specialize in astronomical software, high performance computing, parallelization. I have a great experience with radio interferometers and understand them reasonably well. So, a lot of things I'm doing are in the area of calibration and imaging algorithms, as well as the the other types of software, mainly for Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder. This is the telescope you've seen on the previous slide. We also do a lot of work for Square Kilometre Array, which is the major international project and to a degree reason why ASCAP was started. And the degree of my involvement varied. I was involved quite a lot and attended many meetings in the past. Now probably not so much, but realistically I will be involved in this area in the future quite a lot. This is the core activity, but in addition to core activity, I have a bit of time for my personal science. I'm doing different kind of astronomy, but usually involved in other people's projects at technical roles. However, the projects which I'm likely to be leading are in the area of observational radio astronomy at millimeter wavelengths, and my particular specialty is high mass star formation, molecular spectroscopy masers, and methanol masers in particular. This is done with a different telescope. Australia Telescope Compact Array Narrabri is my main instrument, and to a degree, this is the reason why I came to Australia in the first place, because whatever 17 years ago, that was the only instrument, the only interferometer of the southern hemisphere, uh, and the only instrument which can do the type of science I actually wanted. However, now the focus shifted towards low frequency experiments, low frequency astronomy, more in the focus of Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder. And in general, this particular area of astronomy does not offer too many low-hanging fruits. So pretty much doing it part-time is the only viable option. It is what it is, but many of my collaborators found themselves in similar area. They might not be doing software, they might be doing management, other telescope support or SK activities or teaching, but science is part-time. And as long as it's part-time, you actually have to do time management very carefully because any changes, any disruptions to routine impact disproportionately all these different activities. And basically, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that we are overloaded in every area always because we always try to do the job with least amount of resources. And therefore, the smallest area you spend time will always suffer. Coming back to my research collaborations, first I would like to say that the majority of my science networks were actually not established at formal meetings or conferences. I used to be based in Narrabri, where Australia Telescope Compact Array was, and I found that being based at the observatory when observers are coming to observe there was actually the best thing which actually happened in my professional career. There is a very small number of staff up there, very easy to see a visitor, pretty much guaranteed quality interaction, and people are trapped together in an isolated environment for a few days and have lunches together, and if you observe and stay overnight, people also have dinners together. Essentially, it was a very great experience, and I would say that informal interaction is really the key. And visitors want interaction with experienced users of the facility so they can get something back. That's how most of my collaborations actually started. And I regret to say that this has been made impossible by remote observing. Pretty much these days, you can't repeat the same career path. Coming back to conferences, large conferences is the first type I'd consider. I would say they are great for self-education and new things, but not necessarily to build the new collaborations because basically people's interests are too different. Typically, I don't go for astronomy meetings, largely on cost benefits ground or hard to justify, basically, and lots of other people want to go, and we have restrictions on travel in big groups. So, anyway, in most cases, I don't go to astronomy meetings. Probably wouldn't find enough time to attend them remotely, but if some talks are recorded, I might watch. Engineering conferences are slightly different. I typically found myself attending them on behalf of the project or for our organization to maintain a presence for such meetings. And also, they somehow present great catch up opportunities because a lot of people from my existing networks seem to attend those meetings. So I'm there largely like my benefit, not benefit for organization, but for personal benefit, my own science. It's typically side activities rather than the meetings themselves. Also, surprisingly, I found that these meetings are the best to actually figure out what other people, mainly engineers from my own organization, are doing. Somehow we don't overlap as much at work. SKA events somewhat similar, but more focused. I found uh, myself doing a lot of extended visits after the or before the SKA events, and they are probably more productive than the actual conference itself. Focused meetings like conference on high mass star formation or millimeter astronomy are probably the best networking opportunity. They are sufficiently small to actually get people with close interests, and at the same time they're big enough so there will be always plenty of people with who like with potential to collaborate. Benefit or impact varied from time to time. I would say probably depends on what general interests of the communities are. Uh, Calibration and imaging workshops, very great, probably the best in terms of existing collaborations. Now I know all the people, but early on, of course, it helped a lot to build the networks. I have an interesting experience both participating remotely and facilitating such participation when I organized the meeting in Australia. I found the main issues are time zones and also network speeds if the conference is at offsite location. Maser meetings, somewhat similar to calibration imaging workshops, very productive, good for building networks early on. Now, again, know most of the people. Have one strange experience when we had once Maser meeting in Sydney, my own city, and I struggled to find time to uh, talk to my collaborators who all attended the meeting. Um, Strange, but travel seems to be an essential for time management, largely because of the pressure from other projects I'm doing. So smaller size workshops I found usually the most beneficial, and if you're involved in organizing them, helps a lot. Informal discussion is the key as before, and if you organize in-person meeting, then providing lunches and dinners help. We do a lot of routine business meetings, of course, like day-to-day work discussion with management and telescope commission activities, sprint meetings, and so on. Usually they are within the existing collaborations, but we virtually almost do them remotely or with ability to do a remote participation these days, simply because we have geographically distributed team. I would say works well and probably should stay like that, but maybe we can reduce the general number of meetings because there are too many of them. Colloquia, very good. Probably not talks themselves, but chat afterwards. And I personally try to give colloquia even when I travel privately various places. But typically, of course, it relies on my existing networks and people I know. Interdisciplinary meetings, I was asked to attend many times meetings between like interferometry and biomedical imaging specialists. Very interesting, very future focused, but a distraction from immediate priorities. And I actually often missed meetings like that because of other project pressures. I've done a number of guest talks at unrelated meetings, general computing, and so on. Benefit varies, largely very good for self-education. Schools for students, excellent, actually good networking opportunity to catch up with other lecturers. Good to know students too, although no new collaboration started as a result of that. I also attended various courses, typically technology specific, but again, just used the travel as the excuse to allocate a big block of time. So now I'll come to summary. There are benefits in both virtual and in-person meetings. I see virtual working very well for existing collaborations. However, my main worry is that if we're forced to do it virtually all the time, obviously when COVID is over, it wouldn't be great, certainly not for my science. Informal discussions are the key. I found mid-size meetings work well, and probably the best to set up the new collaborations. I personally don't see how you do it virtually if everyone is busy with other stuff. People just wouldn't call in, wouldn't attend, wouldn't do other activities, or just wouldn't catch up with like-minded people at the right time. We definitely should always provide a tool to remote participation. People's circumstances are different, and from experience, only large meetings seem to make it difficult for some reason. Probably worth to discuss how conference fees apply to remote participation. Some institutions may be difficult to get them covered without attendance in person. And also, I wonder whether conference fees are the reason why the big meetings tend to make remote participation hard. Could also be constraints from venues and so on. And also, I would like to stress that, at least in my particular case, travel helps a lot to timeshare and separate different projects. The work in general, it's better to be done in blocks of time, and it's often hard to find time for something without travel. I'll leave you here. Thank you.